Placing a premium value on your health allows you to have a functioning heartbeat of hope, prosperity, and inspiration. For Bazevski, he's redefining fitness, perseverance, and resilience through fitness, coaching, and motivation. You see, for him, it's personal and gratifying to help others reach their fullest level of fitness potential. Why, you may ask? Because he nearly died after suffering a cardiac arrest. The near-death experience caused him to take an inventory of his life and make a career and life pivot away from the IT industry into health and fitness. And over the last 13 years, he's worked as a life coach and personal trainer, and he's even owned gyms, and right now, his focus is helping others maximize their fullest self from a fitness perspective online. His goal is to use his story and over 15 years of experience as motivation to build and foster a more healthier, happier, and vibrant community. Jai joined me this week to have an emotional, inspirational, and high-energy conversation about health, fitness, his life journey, and why his change of perspective on life has set him up for sustainable and long-lasting success. You'll surely be motivated by what he has to share. So, without further delay, I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. I'll take a moment to welcome you to the program, and I'm super excited to learn about your journey in health and fitness today. Great to see you, and thank you so very much for being here today. It's most appreciated.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, hey, Jai, no problem. And I know that your journey started in health and fitness after you had a quite scary event, having a cardiac arrest, and it caused you to make a career and life pivot. So I'm wondering if you can tell me about who you are, how you got to where you are today, and what makes you so fabulous, my friend.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. So when I was 27 years old, I was playing a game of basketball, and my heart rate started to just do like a funny kind of fluttering. And after the game, it just didn't go down like it normally would. And I thought, wow, this is weird. And so hours went by. I went home, I had a shower, I had some food, I tried to relax, and my heart rate was still as though I was playing a game of basketball. And I was still sweating, and I was starting to get dizzy and lightheaded, and it just wasn't right. But it wasn't just like a normal high heart rate. It was an irregular heart rate. So there would be like 10 beats like that, and then there'd be like a pause for a second, and then there'd be another flutter, and it was just completely inconsistent. And what was happening was I wasn't getting the blood circulation going properly, and so I was starting to get low blood pressure to my brain, and I was feeling lightheaded and just really wasn't feeling well. Skin was going pale. So I thought better check myself into the hospital. And so I went over to the hospital, and they didn't know what was going on with me. They actually thought that I was on some kind of drug, like I was taking drugs and I came in high or something. So I was trying to tell them, no, that's not the case. And then I had my family with me. And so they asked my family to leave the room and they're like, look, your family's gone now. You can tell us the truth. Just tell us what drug you've taken and we'll help you. And I'm like, I haven't taken any drugs. You need to do something. You need to figure this out because I'm starting to get anxious now. And they're like, okay. So they finally believed me, and then they said, look, we can give you a drug that will stop your heart and then it will instantly start your heart again. This is for people that have like an arrhythmia issue. And then I said, look, you guys need to figure it out. I don't know what to do. You guys need to figure it out. And they're like, okay, we'll try it. I was like, all right, let's go. So then it was via intravenous. So they gave me this drug. And then that's the last thing I remember for a while. I basically passed out. I fell into a coma. I was in a non-responsive coma for 8 minutes because I had a adverse reaction to this particular drug. It didn't do what they thought it would do to me. It just dropped me into a coma. It didn't change my heart rate at all. So I was in a coma for 8 minutes. They put a ventilator in me because I was completely non-responsive. And then in that time, my heart rate kept on increasing. And then it got to a point after 8 minutes or so where I just went into a cardiac arrest. So then my heart just peaked out and then just flatlined. So then I'm lying in the hospital bed for 3 minutes, clinically dead. They tried to defibrillate me. Nothing happened. They were about to pull the curtain over me. And then they're like, let's give this guy one more hit. So they powered up the defib, hit me again. Next thing you know, boom, I jump up. I'm choking on this ventilator in my throat and not knowing what the hell's going on. So my memory is that I was projectile vomiting everywhere, which I wasn't. I was just choking on this thing, which I didn't know was in my throat. So my first instinct was I just grabbed this thing and I just ripped it out of my mouth without even thinking, which apparently is a bad thing to do. And then everybody freaked out, and then they pushed me back down onto the bed, and they're like, you just ripped a ventilator out of your chest. We need to x-ray your chest. You've potentially torn, your trachea and all this. And I was like, okay, whatever. I was so exhausted. And then, so they put this heavy blanket on me, like the x-ray blanket. And they x-rayed my chest to make sure that I didn't have any damage in my throat, which luckily I didn't. And then they're like, okay, you're okay. And when I came up out of that, defibrillation, my heart rate was regulated again. So then they kept me overnight for observation. I ended up staying in ICU for another 4 or 5 days. This was like 14 years ago now, 2008. And they were just trying to figure out what the hell happened. They didn't understand what happened. So they were taking blood tests every day, monitoring me. And during that whole time, I was completely fine. I had no symptoms. There was nothing wrong with me at all. And then, after about 4 days or so, the cardiologist comes in, sits on the edge of the bed, and he goes, all right, buddy, here's the deal. We believe that you have a rare heart condition called Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome, which is an additional electrical pulse inside your heart. And there's 2 ways to treat it. We can put you on medication for the rest of your life, which was just absolutely not an option for me. Or we could go in and do surgery, and we can remove that piece of electricity from your heart by burning that part of the muscle tissue and singeing the muscle essentially, and basically just eliminating that electrical pulse, because we all have an electrical pulse which kind of like ignites the beat. But I had a second one which had been dormant, so they say, my entire life. And being under the stress of playing sport and just in that particular moment, for whatever reason, it decided to ignite. And that's where I was getting this message to my brain for like a double beat. So I opted for the surgery. I thought that was the best option. I did the surgery. I wanted to get it done as soon as possible. I think I had to wait about a week. I went out of hospital. I went back in a week later, had the surgery, and then I was on my road to recovery. So then I spent 3 months at home. The recovery was quite long and tedious, and mentally and physically. It wasn't open heart surgery. They went through my groin into my artery, and they wound up these wires basically that went up into my heart, and then they sent like radio waves in there to burn the muscle. And so I had stitches in my groin, and so I couldn't stand up properly. I was hunched over. I couldn't walk up the stairs to get to my bedroom. My parents had to get my my bed and set it up downstairs in the living room, so that I could basically just stay down there. And so the physical recovery was quite tedious, and then the mental recovery was even more tedious because I had anxiety after that about whether it was going to come back and resurface. And then I was way more tuned into the beat of my heart because it was such a big traumatic event. Then I was always referring back and going, am I okay? Am I okay? And so any little irregular heart, like murmur, beat, anything, I would feel it and get anxiety about it. And so I was okay over those 3 months. I went back to the cardiologist and did some checks and stuff. They said, look, we think you're okay. We want you to monitor. We want to put you on a monitor for 24 hours. So they put me on a monitor for 24 hours, one of those little machines, the ECG machines that you take home. It's got all the tubes on your chest, and you sleep with it overnight. And then you give them back the results and they check it all. Well, they checked it all and they said, look, we don't actually think that this problem has gone away. So we want to do the surgery again. And that was probably like one of the lowest points at that moment, because I'd felt like I'd come through this and it was such a traumatic experience. And I thought, look, I'm on the road to recovery. I'm going to get out of here. This is going to be okay. And then it was like, bam, all the way back to the beginning again. And so I remember in that moment, that really took all of the courage. It took all of the fight in me. It just basically took everything for me to be able to deal with that. And so when I got off the phone with the cardiologist, I said to him, the heart surgeon, I said to him, I want to get this done ASAP. So he booked me in. It was 6 days from the conversation. And so I remember I went upstairs, I got in the shower and turned that shower on, and I just cried, just got all the emotion out. I didn't know whether I was going to survive. I thought, I'm not meant to be here. I'm not meant to be alive. All these negative emotions were running through my head. And then I was in that shower and I thought, okay, I can't do this. I can't live like this. So I said to myself, as soon as I turn this shower off, the emotions are turning off with it. I'm not going to think about it anymore. I'm not going to dwell on it. I've booked myself in and committed to go in and have this surgery again. And I'm not going to let it affect me negatively. I'm just going to not think about it. I'm going to get it done. It's going to be okay. And they're going to fix me for good. And then I'm going to move on with my life. And then, so I stayed in that shower for a couple more minutes and I just let all the emotions pour out of me. And then I held onto the shower taps. And then I took a deep breath, turned that shower off. And then I said, that's it. And then I went down to my family and I told my family, I said, look, this is going to mess with my head if we keep talking about it every day and and it's always on my mind. So I don't want to talk about it. It's booked in, it's happening. This is what we're doing. Let's just not talk about it. I just want to focus on the positive and we'll just get through it. And so they're like, great, no worries. And they were fantastic. They never brought it up. They never said anything to me. They just kept me in a positive vibe. And I went in there, did the surgery, got the hell out of there, spent another 3 months recovering, went back and did all my testing, went and did a fitness test, like a stress test. They got me on the treadmill. Up until that point, I was really scared to get my heart rate up. And then I mentioned that to the cardiologist. I said, look, I have a fear about getting my heart rate up again. And then he said to me, look, you're in the space where you can do it now. We want to test you out. If anything happens, we're going to save your life. Don't worry about it. So I said, okay. So then I built up that courage again. I got on that treadmill and I ran like I've never ran before. I thought, if I need to get over this anxiety of getting my heart rate up, then I need to really prove to myself that I'm going to be okay. So I got on that treadmill and I just cranked it. And then he's like, how are you feeling? I'm like, good, crank it up. How are you feeling? Good, crank it up, crank it up. And to the point where I was sprinting so hard, taking my biggest strides and just getting that heart rate was just pounding. Jumped off the treadmill. Heart rate came down like normal, felt good. It was the first time I'd had exercise in 6 months. Felt amazing, actually. I was monitored the whole time. He said, you look great. So he goes, everything looks fantastic. Had another meeting with him. And then he said, look, I never want to see you again. You're fantastic. Everything's done. We're 100% certain that you're fine. So I just went out of there with a new lease on life. Went out of there thinking, wow, I survived this. And then that just created this mindset for me. It's like, hang on a second, I am meant to be here. There was a reason for all this pain, this brought up all this courage for me. And then I felt like I can do anything now. And then that's when I decided that, I'm no longer going to live my life doing anything that creates disharmony to me, anything that I'm not happy with, any circumstances, anything. I'm just going to move on from it with full courage and just knowing that I can change anything in my life. And so it was it was a very traumatic experience at the time, but going through it, it actually gave me a lot of courage, or we all have the courage in us. It brought the courage out of me that I didn't know I had. And that's the great thing. And that's the great message as well, is that the courage is within us. And we just sometimes have to go through these types of experiences to realize that we have it and that we can use it to improve and better our lives. And that's really what has happened ever since that time, is my life has just been getting better and better and better because I've just had that courage to take chances and just move forward in my life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know from that experience that you must have an interesting perspective when it comes to the concept of perseverance. So I'm wondering if you could share your thoughts on the concept of both perseverance and resilience.
Yes, definitely. I mean, going through that type of experience, you don't have a choice. And that's kind of like the beauty of that situation as well. It's because you have to persevere in that perspective of there's no other option. And so that's a good mindset to carry forward as well, where we aren't always pushed into such pressure moments. So in order for us to develop a mindset of perseverance, we have to artificially create that pressure in order for us to persevere. So using that, I am able to create that perseverance for myself by just getting into that mindset of there is no other option. So I tell myself there is no other option. When there's something that I want and I know that it's going to take hard work to get there, or it's going to be a challenge, then I say to myself, I know that the work has to be done. I know that the consistency has to be put in and the effort has to be put in. And so I say to myself, you do not have another option. Like, for example, after I came out of all of the physical rehabilitation, I started Googling and trying to figure out how to get my cardio strength, how to get my heart stronger and develop, more cardiovascular strength. And all of the articles and everything that I read, it all came back to, doing cardiovascular exercises. So I thought, okay, well, I'll sign up, I'll start running and I'll sign myself up for a half marathon. So, and I'd never really run before outside of playing sports like basketball. I'd never been like a jogger or a runner. And so I signed myself up for a half marathon, which was 3 months away from the time that I signed up. And I thought, wow, I haven't given myself much time. So that created that pressure for me to have to put in the work every day. So I woke up every morning at 6 o'clock and I just hit the pavement and I ran for half an hour every day. And at first it was so painful. It was extremely hard for me. My body was aching. I started to develop shin splints from just not running properly. I had to change my shoes and get shoe inserts and I just pushed through it every day. And then when I was actually running in the half marathon, my goal was just don't stop. No, it doesn't matter, how long it takes you, just don't stop. Just keep running the whole way through. And so I was running that race, and that's in kilometers, that's 21.2 kilometers. And so I was running that race and I got to I think I was at the 18th kilometer and I hadn't stopped. And I just had a moment that came into my head. It's like, you've just done 18 kilometers, more than you've ever done in your entire life. And then it just filled me with this energy, because I was feeling flat at that point. I was like ready to give up. And then I just said to myself, to create that perseverance and to create that mindset, I said to myself at that 18th kilometer, I said, okay, you got two options, run or die. That's it. You're not stopping. And so I said, well, I'm definitely not going to die. So I'm going to keep running. And so I just gave myself that ultimatum. And then I just ran and I never stopped. And then every time I saw that sign for that 19th kilometer, 20th kilometer, and it just gave me more power. It just empowered me more. It's like, I'm almost there. I'm almost there. I'm almost there. So I kept on seeing these little wins that kept on boosting me up. And it's like, I'm doing this. I'm going to do it. I'm going to achieve it. And then next thing you know, I see the finish line. And then all of a sudden I just had this energy that came rushing through me. And where does this come from? I've just completely physically exerted myself to the point where I've never exerted myself that much in my entire life. Yet I see a finish line and then I get all this energy, and it's from the mindset. And that's the whole point of the story, is that all of our energy, all of our perseverance, all of our strength and everything, it all comes from our mind and how we think and how we perceive. And so that's really where the perseverance comes from. When we have these negative, deflated, minimalist type of thought patterns, that's when that lowers our energy. And that's when we start to feel like we can't do things and we're not capable and we're not like other people and we're not as good as other people or whatever it may be. But when you start to go, I can, I'm doing this, it's happening, then you just get this energy start flooding through your body, the endorphins release, and you just start, it just happens somehow. And that's the power of the mind. So it's quite amazing for me to experience all that. And so going through those experiences has really showed me that I can do anything. We all can. And that's really a big message that I have. It's like, you can do this. You just got to get, between the ears correct. And that's how we're going to move forward.
And I know that it's important to you to now help others with injury prevention, and you really believe that fitness is a priority. So I'm wondering if you can share why you believe that's so important, my friend.
Yeah, so going back to when I was in hospital, there was a time where I was up in the cardiac ward. I was waiting, for my surgery, and I was in a room with about 8 or 9 other men, and they were all looked like they were in terrible situations. They did not look healthy at all. And these therapists were coming in from time to time. They just pull the curtain across, to separate, create the privacy screen, and then they'd sit in there and have a therapy session right there. So I've got this guy right next to me having this therapy session, and this therapist is basically preparing them for death to what it seemed. And it really was shocking for me because these guys were literally on death's door. They were going in for, quadruple bypasses and transplants and all these really heavy surgeries on their hearts. And I was just blown away because I was looking around and all these men were in their 50s, 60s. They weren't overly old, but I could see just from their body type and how they looked that they just hadn't been taking care of themselves. And I just got this epiphany, and I thought, you know what? Nobody needs to be here. This is not the place to be. I thought to myself, prevention is the cure. And so that's when I got the idea in my head. It's like, you know what? I'm going to get myself out of here. I'm going to get myself so strong, so healthy through fitness and lifestyle. And then I'm going to pay that forward, and I'm going to help people like all these people around me to not get themselves in this situation and use fitness and health as the backbone of their lifestyle in order to avoid places like this. So for me, I think it's the foundation for everybody. I think that no matter what type of success you want to have in your life, whether it's relationships, career, finances, anything at all, really, the backbone and foundation of that is to live with fitness and health in your life, because it empowers you so much. It gives you that courage, that strength, that confidence to be able to take on the big challenges that you want to take on in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jai, I don't know if you did any research on me, but I was born with what's called spastic quadriplegia cerebral palsy, and simply means that I don't have enough oxygen in my legs to walk normally, but I still use fitness as a major part of my life, because if I don't move, my friend, my muscles contract faster than yours. So tell me about making fitness a priority and how important you believe that is to your overall quality of life.
It's so important. I think, when people are in situations like yourself and like my past, we can easily see the contrast of it, because we've been through, times in our life where we haven't had optimal health. But there's a lot of people just walking around and they're just numb, and they're not super healthy, but they're not super fit. They're kind of just in that limbo state where they're just kind of cruising by, and, they don't have major issues, but they're not in a good place. And those are really the people that are suffering the most in my mind, because they're the ones that don't realize how much fitness can enhance your whole life from a mindset perspective and just making you happy. and confident. But then also from that physical perspective, like that strength and empowerment that you get from, being able to exercise and see those results and and feel how your body responds to that is so empowering. And I really think that everybody should be experiencing that. And it's true, like similar to your situation is extreme, but everybody really does have that degrading feeling of their body, like in terms of like lack of oxygen, oxygen in the body, in the limbs, in the brain, all that stuff. It creates muscle soreness, achy joints. Like you see people stand up off the couch and like they walk like they're, 30 years older than they are for the first, 10, 15 seconds until the blood starts to circulate through. When you're exercising regularly, you don't have those feelings. Your body is always efficient. You have good blood circulation. I mean, oxygenated blood is the life force within us. If we don't have oxygenated blood flowing through our bodies, then our bodies aren't healing and staying youthful. They're degrading and getting old. I have a saying, it's from Tony Robbins: you're either green and growing or you're ripe and rotting. And there's no in between in nature. So you need to look at that perspective. You can't just kind of float through the middle. You need to acknowledge whether, are you green and growing? Are you pushing yourself and challenging yourself to stay green? Or are you ripened up, or are you ripening and rotting? So it's very, very important. And just creating that foundation of fitness, starting at square one and building yourself up from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jerry, I'm also fascinated to ask you about the career transition you went through, because I know that you had a career in IT, but you found a higher calling in fitness. So tell me about making the leap of faith and changing your career path and sort of the impact that's had on your life.
Yeah, definitely. So again, all this came back from the experience I had with the cardiac arrest, because it empowered me to want to change my life. So at that time, I was a network engineer in an IT company, and I'd been in that career for 13 years, and I loved it at first, but then I started to lose my passion for it over the years, to the point where I actually started to hate it. And that got me into a daily routine where I'd wake up in the morning, my alarm would go off, I'd put my feet off the edge of the bed, and I'd put my hands into my head like this, and I would just say to myself, I can't believe I have to do this again today. And it was just depressing, and I just hated it, and I didn't want to live a life like that. And so having that courage from going through the experiences that I went through, I said, you know what, I'm going to throw it in. I'm going to do what I love. And after the experiences in the hospital, where I realized that I wanted to live a life of service to others, I wanted to help people to get out of their situations with their bad health. And I wasn't doing that in my career. I didn't feel fulfilled in my career. I didn't feel like I was helping the world and people in any way. It wasn't giving me that feedback that I needed, that I urged for from that moment. So that's when I decided, you know what, I'm interested in this. I'm interested in being healthy now for the rest of my life, and not only being healthy, but being at peak level of fitness and health, so that I never have any health issues again. And so that started to develop into a passion for me, where I was doing a lot of research and reading a lot of books and just really interested in that topic. And then I thought, wow, this is a career opportunity here. And so that's when I decided to study and become a qualified personal trainer and a life coach, and do that transition. So I was lucky enough that I was working in my previous career for 13 years, that I had some long service and I had a little bit of money stacked up. So I was able to use that as my buffer to get myself going, kick off my business. And then it basically went from there. And so now I've been able to help thousands of people, and I just work with them with the principle of square one, like, let's get you back to the foundation. Like, what do you want? What do you need? Where are you at? And then just work with the individual from there, and just guide them from where they are now to where they need to be. So it's not a cookie cutter, generic, plan or program for everybody. It's exploring where they are and then helping them take those steps, both from a mental perspective and from a physical perspective, to shorten the timeline that it takes to actually figure it out yourself. Because I'd done all of that study and had that interest over so many years, that I'd learned so much that I could see, just from looking at somebody or having a consultation with somebody, I could see exactly the steps that they weren't doing, that they needed to do, that would completely fast track them to get them to where they needed to be and create so much happiness and joy in their life. So that's where it all kind of started from. And that's what I've been doing now for 13 years.
Well, it's been quite the journey, my friend, and I have to tell you that I live my life through the saying that inclusion is the gateway to independence. And I think making fitness inclusive is vitally important. And I know that one of your taglines for the work you do now is fitness for everybody. So tell me, how can we make fitness a more inclusive experience, and what does fitness for everyone mean to you?
For me, it means that it should be for everybody, and it is for everybody. And it's, to me, there's like a perception of a fitness culture, and a lot of people are deterred by that. They're like, oh, I'm not into that gym culture. I'm not into that fitness culture, the Insta snaps and the selfies and all this kind of stuff. And yes, that is part of it, but that's a very small part of it. I always felt like I was never aligned with fitness culture because I always just did things my own way, and I just worked directly with people. So for me, fitness is zoning in on the individual and isolating what it is that they need to enhance their life. It's about the individual. So fitness for everybody means it doesn't matter who you are. We all have different circumstances. We all come from different backgrounds. We've all got our own trauma and our own experiences. And so we need to use those experiences to figure out what the best way is to incorporate fitness into our life. So, some people like myself who have had physical health issues, which then turned into, mindset issues around anxiety, health anxieties, things like that. So there's a certain way to deal with that type of person. And then there's other people that suffer with just things like, overeating and gaining too much weight and just always being, the fat kid, or just having that kind of negative persona around them that they haven't been able to break through. So then that's a totally different approach as well. So the person who is obese doesn't need to approach fitness the same way as somebody who wants to get totally jacked and compete in a body competition, like a fitness competition, or an athlete, for example. So it's very unique and it's very individual, just like life. And fitness is life for me. It is a huge part of life. Like my morning routine is all based around my health. I wake up, I do a morning pump. I do either some burpees or some push-ups or some pull-ups or some kind of body weight exercise as soon as I wake up. And then that gives me the blood oxygen that I was talking about before. And then it changes your mindset. It puts you into a positive mindset for the day. You're motivated. You've got a little win already. As soon as you wake up, you've got a little win that you can tick off. It's like, yeah, I've already done my morning pump. I've already done some exercise. And that's not my actual workout. That's just to get my body awake after lying in a bed for 8 hours. So doing these little things just really empower us. And so I think we need to take that approach of working with the individual specifically and doing what it is that they need that is the best thing for that person. And to me, that's what fitness for everybody is. It's where it's not generic, it's specific.
Yeah, absolutely. And tell me, would you look at putting fitness as a priority in life? I'm wondering if you can provide sort of a roadmap for success for people who really want to elevate the priority they put in fitness, but not necessarily something that they've done throughout the course of their life. So what do you think is the key to making fitness a priority, and what sort of a roadmap can people start with?
That's a great question. So the first thing is to make it a priority. So you have to put yourself first. It's like, you know how they say when you get on an airplane, you've got to put the oxygen mask on yourself first before you help the people next to you. It's the same thing with your health and your fitness. You need to put that oxygen mask on yourself first by taking care of yourself first. So for me, I think a great roadmap is having a morning routine. So a lot of people say, I'm not a morning person, but you have to audit your habits. A lot of people who say that they're not morning people, they say that because they're very tired in the morning because they stay up late with bad habits, maybe, binging on Netflix or flicking through their phone or just generally staying up later than they should, when a lot of that stuff is time wasting, where they could get that extra sleep to wake up and put their health before their leisure. So there's a theory that I like, and it's your pain becomes your purpose. And so you want to use the pain to create your purpose. So you wake up in that morning, it might be uncomfortable to set the alarm for 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. or 4 a.m. or whatever it needs to be. There might be a little bit of pain around that, but that is where your purpose comes from. So we're choosing the pain over the pleasure, the pleasures of staying up late at night and watching Netflix and that, and we're focusing on the pain, and then the pain starts to eventually come down, and then you start to enjoy it, and then it actually starts to become your lifestyle, and it starts to become a pleasure. So the roadmap for me and what I recommend is to create a morning routine where you stack little wins on top of each other in the morning before your day even begins. When everybody else is asleep, you're stacking your little wins. So for example, you have that alarm set. Really it starts the night before. You have a nighttime curfew, I'm going to bed at 9 o'clock tonight, or whatever it needs to be, so you can get enough sleep. So then you wake up at the set time that you say, even when you don't feel like getting out of bed, you have to get out of bed, because that's the beginning. That's what starts that routine off. So you get out of bed. And then the first thing you do is you drink some water and you hydrate your body. Maybe you can take some supplements or, some activated charcoal or some kind of detox or something that you like to do. I take activated charcoal in the morning. It's a great detox. It's just a powder. I have a half a teaspoon in a half a glass of water, and I stir that around and I drink that down. Another thing I do in the morning is I have a shot of apple cider vinegar. It helps get the digestion going, and it wakes you up, actually. And then I do my morning pump. So my morning pump can be anywhere from 20 to 50 repetitions of an exercise that challenges me. I love doing burpees because burpees are great cardio and they give you a good muscle pump as well. They get the oxygen flowing. Obviously, not everybody can jump straight into an intense exercise like burpees. So it might just be some bodyweight squats, or it might be some push-ups or some sit-ups, or just something that you can do that's not that's achievable for you, that's not too much of a, that's going to mess with your mind and say, oh, this is going to take too much of my mental energy. Just something quick that you can do. Even if you start with 10 repetitions, say you did 10 bodyweight squats or 10 push-ups, something like that, just to get the blood flowing, then straight away it's like, wow, done, tick that box. Writing all this down in a journal. I have in my diary, I have an A4 size diary, and then I have my morning process. So I write everything down, have my supplements, my morning pump, and then I read a few pages from a book. I don't need to dive into a whole book for an hour. I don't have time for that, but I'll just read a few pages. So I'll open up, I'll read a few pages, and then I'll find something that really resonates, and then I'll take a photo of that, and then I'll just keep that in my mind for the day. I'll often share that on my social media as well. So now I've stacked so many wins. I woke up at the time I said I was going to wake up. There's a win. I've had some supplementation and some hydration. There's another win. I've had a little morning pump. There's another win. I've read a few passages from a book. There's another win. So already I'm winning the morning. I've got 4 wins already, and I've only been awake for half an hour or 20 minutes. So by doing those little things, I think that's a great way to get going. And then that encourages you then, okay, now I'm going to go and do my exercise. What is the exercise? This is where it comes back to the individual. So for most people who are just getting started, it's probably just going to be a walk, getting outside and walking the dog, or just going for a walk, getting those steps up. If you can get 3,000 steps in the morning, wow, you're winning. You're going to feel great. You can put a podcast in while you're walking, or some music that's going to inspire you. Take nice deep breaths to oxygenate the body, get that fresh air in, get out in nature, get some sunshine on your body, and get that vitamin D. And then come back home, have your shower, and then you have your healthy meal. So you have a set meal. So you're not just going to go, oh, what am I going to eat today? I'll grab something at the cafe when I go and grab a coffee. No, you're going to have a set meal that is going to serve you, that's going to make you healthy. So, it might be a smoothie. It might be like a fruit bowl, or, whatever it is for you based on your dietary requirements and your goals. You can figure that out, and that is what you're going to have every morning. So we're creating these little routines that develop, and then you start to love it. Like my morning routine I love it so much that when I go away for a holiday, I'm out of my routine and I'm out of my sorts. Like I wish I was home in a way. Like I love that I'm out on a holiday, but at the same time, I miss my routine. I love waking up and following my routine. I love ticking boxes off in my diary. Those little wins just boost my confidence. They make me feel good, and they set me up for a productive day. And then you just continue on with your day, and you add in, the things that are important to you, the work. So I call it the highest value tasks. So the highest value tasks in your life are going to be the things that bring the most return long term. Not the little quick wins, but the long return. So, taking care of your health by doing exercise and, having a planned healthy meal, you're going to get a long-term return from that. So that makes that a high value task. So getting those high value tasks done, 3 or 4 of them a day, as early as possible, are going to really progress you in your life and take you forward. And that is both from a fitness and health perspective, but also from a business and career perspective. So if you're working in a career, say you're in sales, so what are the highest value tasks that you can do in your job? It's going to be reaching out, probably making sales calls, generating leads, whatever the highest value tasks are, they're the things that you focus on first. And I think that is how you set that roadmap up to have the outcomes that you want.
Yeah, absolutely. And just building on that point, Jai, I'm also wondering your thoughts on how your personal health, development, and your growth are sort of interconnected. Because if you take care of yourself from a physical perspective, everything else manifests itself, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I don't think that you can have the personal development without the health. I think that the health is the foundation of everything. So I think if you want to, go into some kind of personal development, say there's an area of your life that's not fitness and health related that you want to develop. Say you want to be really, really rich and successful in your career, or, something like that. I think that you're not going to have that level of success without that foundation of health and fitness, because that's what actually builds that mindset for you, and that's what creates that ability for you to rise up. If you don't have a strong foundation, then the house will sink, right? So it's the same for us. We need that foundation. It is literally for everything. To me, it is the most important thing, because if you think about all of the problems that you could have in your life, what is the worst problem? The absolute worst problem that you could have in your life is a health problem. It's not a financial problem. You can overcome a financial problem. It's not a relationship problem. You can overcome a relationship problem. But if you've got a health problem, then that impacts your relationships. It impacts your ability to earn income. It impacts your ability to take care of your family. It impacts everything. So to me, it is the everything. It is the everything for everything. Having that fitness is the mindset that we need to have for whatever goal we want to accomplish.
Yeah, absolutely. And reading up on the Jai, I found out that you used to sort of burn the candle at both ends and really sort of stretch yourself from a mental and physical perspective. And you also tell me that your diet wasn't always the best. And I'm curious how you value sort of your mental health, and what does it mean to you to sort of reverse the trend of burning the candle at both ends?
Yeah. So I think that at that time I wasn't paying attention to the signs. So there's always signs that we're not that we're burning the candle basically. So, like, oh, I'm chasing my energy today. I'm really tired, or I feel mentally not right, or wow, I'm starting to gain this weight on my belly, or I'm not fitting into my clothes. So all these things are little signs, or I'm always agitated, or I snapped at that person and that wasn't me. My temperament's changed, or people are stepping back in relationships from me, like I'm rubbing people the wrong way. I'm always having conflicts with people. So all of these little things are signs. And I was ignoring all of the signs. I was ignoring my body fat growing. I was ignoring my sleep wasn't good. I was ignoring the fact that I was getting agitated and angry very easily. I was just ignoring that I wasn't happy, and I didn't have the energy that I used to have when I was younger. And I was also ignoring that I shouldn't be eating these types of foods. Like I was going to McDonald's like 3 or more times a week and just eating that food because I didn't even know why. I just got into a negative routine. And when I was eating it, I actually had guilt. And that's another sign. So I would drive through that McDonald's and I would think, I hope nobody sees me. So, if I'm having guilt about something, that's another sign. So you don't want to, you could imagine that there's a camera on you 24/7. What would you do? That's the kind of mindset. And so, yeah, I think that I was burning the candle at both ends through work as well, because I was working really long hours to try and get things done because I was stressed. And I think that I was working ineffectively. I wasn't working efficiently enough. I wasn't staying on top of things because my day would start so slow, because I'd wake up lethargic and with minimal energy. And then I'd prioritize things like coffees, and I wasn't prioritizing my highest value tasks like I was mentioning before. So I didn't have my priorities in order. And so then my days ended up becoming harder and longer. And so that's how I ended up burning the candle, because I wasn't efficient in my day and in my tasks. I didn't have a diary that I was prioritizing my high value tasks in and what I needed to do. So everything was kind of like reactive rather than proactive. And so that's how I burnt myself out. And then on top of that, my energy was so low that I didn't have the willpower to improve anything. So I didn't have the willpower to make a healthy meal. Rather, I would go to the drive-through. And I didn't have the willpower to try and develop natural energy by getting more sleep and staying hydrated and eating more fruits and vegetables. So I would rely on coffee. And then I developed a habit where I was having, 4 or 5 coffees a day. And then that was impacting my sleep further and burning me out further. So I was getting into this spiral that was just taking me down further and further and further, to the point where it was just too much for me. And I couldn't deal with normal day-to-day situations. I was too agitated, too tired, too stressed. And I realized that this isn't me. So that's when, the penny dropped, and I was like, I'm not living right. So again, a lot of us have to go through these stages where things get really low before they can come better. And so I try and create that awareness for people to don't let it get that low. Like I let my life get that low, and that impacted me. And yeah, I was able to come through that, but I can save you a lot of time and effort by pulling you out now early, before you start sinking, and make those changes so that you can enhance your life and move even further forward faster than what you ever anticipated.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm also fascinated to ask you about, what does the concept of gratitude mean to you?
Oh man, gratitude is everything. I wake up every morning grateful to be alive. After losing my life for 3 minutes, and after, thinking that I wasn't meant to be alive, when I had to have the second round of heart surgery, I was like, why is this happening to me? Am I even meant to be here? I had all of these conflicting thoughts and questions. And then once I got through it, I was like, you know what? I'm empowered. I've got a message. I've got a purpose. I've got a reason to be alive. And I'm so thankful for that. And it sets up my day. So every morning I have an affirmation that I say to myself, and it is, thank you, God. I'm so grateful for my healthy life. And so I'm so grateful for my healthy body and my long, awesome life. So I just say that every morning. And whenever I feel like, even actually, sometimes you get like a song stuck in your head that you hate and you want to get it out, I go back to my affirmation. Thank you, God. I'm so grateful for my healthy body and my awesome long life. Thank you, God. I'm so grateful for my healthy body and my awesome long life. Thank you, God. I'm so grateful for my healthy body and my awesome long life. I'm starting to get goosebumps now. It changes your vibration, it changes your frequency, and it heals your body. So having that gratitude is, I think, important, because we have to set our frequency up to what we want, to align with the things we want. So if you are in a mindset of need, like I need this, then really what that mindset is a mindset of lack. It's a mindset of, I don't have that thing. So that frequency that your thoughts are putting out are going to attract that same frequency. So frequencies attract frequencies. So if I'm constantly saying to myself, I don't have this, I don't have this, I don't have this, I need this, I need this, I need this, then the frequency that I'm projecting out is that I don't have it. And so what I attract into my life is just that. I don't have it. And so I'll never accomplish things. And this is a mindset shift that a lot of people don't understand and can empower them and can help them to move towards their goal. Is rather than say, for example, you need to lose a lot of weight. And then if you keep on saying to yourself, like, oh, like I need to lose so much weight. I'm so fat. I'm so overweight. Like, it's just, it's so slow. All of those words have a frequency, have a vibration to them. And so whatever you're putting out there, whatever you're saying is creating that vibrational frequency. And that's what you're going to attract. You're going to attract, this is hard. This is slow. I'm overweight. I can't get there. This is taking too long. This is a struggle. So rather, let's switch it to the gratitude. Even if you're not there yet, even if you don't have perfect health, be grateful for perfect health, even though you don't have it. So let's say that you need to lose, 50 pounds. Then you say to yourself, I'm so grateful that I've lost 50 pounds. I'm so grateful that I've lost 50 pounds. I'm so grateful that I've lost 50 pounds, even though you haven't. But what you're doing is you're projecting out a frequency of gratitude. And then what that does is that frequency then aligns the universe to work with you to then give you what you want, because the universe is going to give you whatever you want regardless. And we're unknowingly, we're manipulating the universe basically to bring in and to draw in what we want. So rather than saying like, I'm so sick of being 50 pounds overweight, I don't know how I'm going to lose this 50 pounds. This is taking so long. This is so hard to lose this 50 pounds. Rather than saying that, just act as if, it's almost like the fake it till you make it. I'm so grateful that I've lost that 50 pounds. I'm so grateful that 50 pounds came off so fast. I'm so grateful that I found the way to lose this 50 pounds. I'm so grateful. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And when you just put that, it feels better. Even if it just feels better, then that's a bonus, as opposed to what you're saying yourself that's making those negative emotions rise up for you, that frustrated emotion that rises up when you say, oh, I don't have this. Just purely by saying that you do have it and that you're grateful for it, it just makes you feel better. So why wouldn't you do that anyway? And then when you start to do that, then all of a sudden that gratitude starts to expand out into your reality, and then you actually start receiving. So you have to be grateful in order to receive.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Jay, today, or this month rather, is a Women's History Month. So I'm curious to ask you about what the occasion means to you, and why do you think it's so important that we have to celebrate Women's History Month?
I think it's, the feminine energy is such a beautiful energy, and it's something that we need to embrace. I feel like masculinity and femininity need to come together, and that's what makes us whole. So that's my relationship with my wife. She's feminine and I'm masculine, and together we feel like we are whole. She brings elements and she brings aspects of the way she thinks and her perspective and her kindness and her gentleness and just her approach and just perspective overall. She brings things that I don't bring. And then I bring things that she doesn't bring, that masculinity, that high energy, that, just just that strength. And they're both positive and they're both beautiful. And we need both, but we also need to, work with what we have. And so when we can combine those two energies together, that's what makes humanity. And I think that's a beautiful thing. So I think that, just as much as that female energy, that feminine energy is important, so is that masculine energy, so is that male energy. They're both very important. They're both, in their highest form, they're both gentle and kind and loving and come from a great space. And that's what makes great parenting. That's what makes, a great culture. And that's what makes a great world full of humanity, where everybody is loving from their own space of their own energy. So everything is equally beautiful in my perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jay, I've got just two more questions for you. And the first has to do from a fitness perspective. How important is it, do you believe, that we really have to listen to our bodies from a fitness perspective when things are going right and when they're going wrong? How important is it, do you think, that we have to listen to our bodies overall?
That is a great question, because we all know how our body feels. I can't tell anybody how they're feeling. They know how they're feeling, and we often deny it. And this is why I was saying before about, chasing your energy by having stimulants like coffee or drugs or something like that. So listening to your body and tuning into what your body is telling you, it will give you all the answers that you need. And it's just the issue that a lot of people have is that they just deny it or they brush it to the side. But a great way to really tap into that energy and that knowingness is by journaling. Just every day, just writing a few paragraphs of how you're feeling. Last night I had a rough sleep, or last night I had crazy dreams, or last night I had an amazing sleep and I'm well rested. And then you start to think, well, if I had a really bad sleep, I wonder why I had a bad sleep. And it was like, oh, you know what? It was because I had that conversation with my boss yesterday and that made me feel a little bit unworthy. And then you can dive into that. And so just tapping into that awareness, it's self-awareness really, isn't it? And tapping into that self-awareness of how you're feeling will then be your compass to guide you towards the actions that you need to do. And again, when you go back to that morning routine and having that process, that's always going to be your default to fall back on. So whenever you feel like things aren't right, or you don't feel like you're, at your optimal level of health, or your mindset isn't feeling the best, you're not feeling totally happy, you want to have something that you can just go back to straight away that's going to realign you. And that's where you just jump straight into those habits, into that mindset, into winning the morning, into stacking those little wins, as I was saying, and then that just kind of transitions everything back. But having that self-awareness is really important, tapping in to self, how you're feeling, journaling it out, and really trying to understand yourself as much as possible. And, reading books are an amazing way to understand different concepts and have things explained to you in ways that you can help you understand yourself, because other people's experiences help you to understand yourself better. So my story that I shared has hopefully helped other people to think about their lives in a different way and just unlocked something for them where they're like, you know what, I'm similar to Jai in that way. And I think that this would benefit me as well if I do some of these things that he's talking about. So tapping in and being self-aware, I think is really the foundation of how you start that process of getting healthier and living that lifestyle, because it's the tapping in and looking within that is going to give you all of the answers as to what you actually need in that moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jai, I can't thank you enough for your time today, buddy. But my final question for you today has to do with your own personal and professional legacy and how you want that to be defined.
Absolutely. So I think that we've all got past experiences. We've all got our own unique history, and we can some people use that and they end up becoming a victim from that. And so they end up building excuses around as to, I don't have the life I want because of my past experiences. So I think that what we need to do is we need to turn our past and our pain into our purpose in our life to empower ourselves and other people. So if I was to leave people with anything, it is to find your uniqueness, the experiences that you've gone through, turn them into your superpower, and then live that life. And then what that will do will encourage other people to do the same. So if I can live my life with full empowerment based on my past experiences, good or bad, then I think that will then help other people to do the same, and that will have a ripple effect. We'll have a domino effect where everybody starts to develop this mindset of your pain is your purpose. Use your pain, use your past, and empower yourself with that. It happened for a reason. The world happens for us. It doesn't happen to us. So it's shifting that mindset to be more empowered. And that is really the legacy that I would love to leave, is for people to think of me as, that guy just went for it. That guy just, he knew what he wanted and he did it. He empowered himself. He found it within himself, and he showed us that anybody can do that. He came from, near death to turning everything around and just living the life that he wanted to live, and just having the courage to just go for it, and having the positivity to know that if you really want something in your heart, then you can go for that. You can take those risks, and if you stay positive and with gratitude, you will have that thing that you want.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jai, tell me finally, if people want to get connected with the good work that you do, buddy, what's the best way they can do that?
So the best way to get in contact with me, or to just even follow along and see my morning process and how I live my life, is through Instagram. So my Instagram handle is SQ1 Fitness, AUS for Australia, SQ1 for square one. So that's SQ1 Fitness, AUS. I'm on Instagram every day. I share my life. I share my wins. I share my philosophy, and I can also be easily contacted through there. I also have a website, sq1fitness.com.au, if you wanted to have a little explore at what I do and the work that I do.
Fantastic. Well, Jai, I have to tell you, you have quite the inspirational and thought-provoking story, my friend. And I want to thank you for getting up so early to share your story of courage, inspiration, and your life experience, my friend. I wish you all the best in your continued endeavors to build a healthier and happier existence and world, my friend. And I want to thank you for joining me this morning. It's most appreciated.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I appreciate you.